Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I hope you're having a good weekend. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is play you a very interesting excerpt I heard from, of all things, BBC's Africa Daily. Now, I know the first thing you're going to ask is, Bootneck, why are you listening to Africa Daily? Well, let me tell you, when you have an all-consuming, passionate hatred for the BBC, you spend an awful lot of time listening to it and reading it. You've got to keep an eye on the slimy little toads that run it. So I listen to a lot of things on the BBC. And this was a hidden gem because they have an Egyptologist on there. A historian by the name of Zahi Hawass is an Egyptologist, a historian and a professional. And obviously, Mr. Zahi Hawass can never be accused of anything as petty and vindictive as racism and bigotry, because he's not a pasty, blue-eyed, handsome, hairy northerner like me. So it's worth listening to. And he shoots them down in flames for this shocking lying about history that's been going on the last few years with gusto. And his argument's flawless. I'm going to play you quite a lot of it because I think it's worth listening to. It's about 10 minutes. And I will jump in periodically with comments, but trust me, it is worth listening to. Also, I really like the voice of the African bloke who's asking the questions, because he's got a very soothing voice. It almost put me to sleep listening to him. Sounds a bit like James Earl Jones if he was born and raised in Mogadishu or something. I don't know, but I did enjoy listening to it, and it's fascinating to hear. And I think that's why it's so good, because everybody on the show is, I mean, I don't like using their words. They aren't white, let's just say that. I hate POC, the stupid lingo they use. They're all foreign, they're not European, and they discuss it rationally and calmly and point out exactly why normal people care about truth. And because of the virtue of where they come from, they can't be simply slurred and ignored and called fascist, sexist, homophobe. So it's a great listen. Enjoy.
Looking back at what was and how it all happened, how did we become who we are? I love this stuff. I love it. Something else I enjoy? The controversies that sometimes come with those historical events. So when I had an upcoming Netflix documentary drama had caused, well, drama in Egypt, I packed up. See, the series is about African queens, and one of those featured is Cleopatra, the Egyptian queen. You might say, okay, why would that make people angry? There have been many movies made about her and her life. Well, what's got Egyptians talking is how she's portrayed in the film. She's played by a black woman. So today I'm asking, why has a black actress playing Cleopatra enraged a nation?
It's enraged a nation, mate, because normal human beings have regard for truth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, what your religious beliefs are, anything. It's a virtue that we've evolved as living part of communities for thousands of years. People care about facts. People care about reality. What's true is important. To try and force people to tell a lie is a wicked act, and everybody knows it. You didn't need Moses to tell you that. Egyptians are angry because, unlike Guardian reading Western academics, they don't like being lied to, and they're not willing to swallow gobbledygook just because it toes the line with some ludicrous ideology that is being pushed by paid shills and globalist psychopaths the world over. That's why. However, let's let this woman explain it far more eloquently than I.
All right. So, many Egyptians were unhappy when a recently released trailer of an upcoming Netflix film showed a black actress playing the lead, Cleopatra. They took to social media and flooded the internet with their ire. A lawyer filed a complaint to the public prosecutor saying the series was trying to erase the Egyptian identity. And some lawmakers called for the film to be banned in Egypt. So I wanted to know why this was causing so much anger. And I just knew who to turn to. My colleague Feiruz Hosni. She's with the BBC Arabic trending team. If anyone has a finger on the pulse of what are the big talking points online. It's her.
It was received actually with a lot of anger. Egyptians are expressing their anger on all over social media. Most of Egyptians, they don't have Netflix. But once it had been talked about on social media, it went viral everywhere. They are talking about stealing their history. They are talking about stealing their queen identity. It caused frustration on social media. So they didn't take it easy, actually, at all.
What are some of the things they were saying specifically?
They talked about, mainly, of course, they know Queen Cleopatra, but not in a historical way. Most of the Egyptians, they know Cleopatra as Elizabeth Taylor, to be honest, for her movie. Believe it or not, this is most of the Egyptians, this is how much they know about Cleopatra. They believe she looks like that. So everyone's talking about that Cleopatra is not black because she's Greek. Her features, they talk about her nose, they talk about her lips. Some of the comments, of course, are not nice, are a bit rude, but mainly they are angry because they felt that it's been happening for a long time.
Isn't it refreshing to hear as well? The most she said was, some of the comments are a bit rude. If that was anywhere in the Western world, they'd get some overpaid, brain dead academic from the University of Birmingham or some shameless race baiter like Dr. Shola or whatever she's called, and put them all over the telly, and she'd be going, oh my god, everybody is a racist, everybody is a sexist, everybody is a homophobe, it's all to do with colonialism. He's just politely talking to her, and she's like, yeah, they're a bit rude, but they don't like being lied to. They don't like their queen being stolen from them. They don't like being told your history is all lies. Your history is what we tell you. Woke, insufferable rich people that work for Netflix. We'll tell you what it means to be Egyptian. Allow some middle-class woke throbber from California to tell you what it means to be Egyptian. If nothing else, it's more of that detestable racism of low expectations, isn't it? It's smug, highly educated, middle-class Guardian readers in somewhere like New York or California saying, no, Egyptians, we'll tell you what you're allowed to think. I mean, no wonder they're angry.
They are also talking about blackwashing their history.
What does blackwashing their history mean?
Lately, for the last couple of years, there have been reports about celebrities who are talking about Afrocentrism, and the Egyptians feels that these people or these movements are trying to steal their history, and they feel no, it belongs to Egyptian, and it's.
There's people who think this blackwashing movement is trying to steal their history. It's not just in Egypt, love. It's not just in Egypt. Have a walk around Middlesbrough, see what the people think there. Blackwashing. You can't even talk about blackwashing if you're white and you live in Europe, can you? Even bring it up and they'll say, oh yeah, you know why you brought that up? Why? Because I like history? No. Because you want to shovel 10 million black babies into the ovens. Do I? I'm just reading the paper. Leave me alone.
I wonder why people are so angry. I saw an article in which someone was saying when Cleopatra was alive, nobody cared what race she was. People are not classified necessarily based on their race. And one has to wonder that why are people so angry that she's being portrayed as black? How much of that is racism, if I may bluntly ask you?
Let me tell you something. The problem here is not about Cleopatra is black. It's about Cleopatra, the documentaries being connected to the Afrocentrism, because Egypt has all different skin colors. It's if you go to Upper Egypt, they are black, and none of the Egyptians, if I can recall, never asked about any of their kings or queen what their skin color was. Even in the temples and the monuments, we have all different colors of skins on because some of the colors are still there. So it's mainly about changing what Cleopatra, although their image of Cleopatra in their minds. Although Cleopatra's mother wasn't known, and believe it or not, most of the Egyptian doesn't know that. So all they know that she was from a Greek descendant. So they expecting it as white. So it makes them believe that it's changing their history. It's mainly they want to connect her to Egypt more than anywhere else.
So he's doing his job and just politely asking her, do you think it's anything to do with racism? And she's like, of course not. Of course not. Because there's all races in Egypt. It's simply about caring what's true and what isn't. They know for a fact that her father was Greek and they don't know what her mother was. So at best, she was mixed race. But her brother and sister were blonde. So does it sound like the dad was shagging? Answers on the postcard.
How is mainstream media covering this story?
The problem is the media didn't help it at all because they are reporting it as the people are angry, people are angry. I haven't seen much of interviews or some of the archaeologists talking about how this could be true and that Cleopatra could be black and Egyptian. The media actually ignite the anger in Egypt, and they are keep reporting that the Egyptians are angry and this is changing the history and erasing the Egyptian identity. So actually media didn't help the Egyptian and direct them to the historic facts that Cleopatra could be black or could be white or could be any color. It doesn't matter. She was an Egyptian queen, and race in ancient history wasn't looked like as we look to it right now.
Right, and there's also this whole point about colorism. I wonder, what is the situation like in Egypt? How is it seen or talked about?
You know, Egypt is a 1,000 kilometer long. So the people, the Egyptian North Egypt are white or light color. The Egyptian in Luxor and Aswan, they are black. And in between, we are all mixed colors.
So how do you predict that this is likely to play out moving forward? What do you see happening next?
One of the lawyers complained to the general prosecutor against Netflix and the documentary makers, and another MP raised it in the parliament. But I don't think this is going to go anywhere because there is no grounds to all this. We haven't seen it actually until now, so we don't know what type of history they are doing, and is it historically true, or there are some false things said there. So it's still too early to say where this is going, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. You know, none of the authorities will move for a ban or anything.
Feroz is right. No one outside of those in charge of the film has seen the whole feature as it comes out on the 10th of May. But if looking to the future is hard to do, looking back at the past should be easy, as it's a place to start. Just to understand why many Egyptians have been rejecting this idea of a Cleopatra with a darker complexion. Dr. Zahi Awas is an archaeologist and an Egyptologist, basically an expert in all things Egypt and its history, and he's the man to take us back in time and break down why the film has caused such drama.
Just so you know, this is Zahi Hawass. Behold the face of white supremacy. Former minister, he's extremely well respected, he's a practicing follower of the religion of many pieces. His credentials are unblemished and impossible to refute. His knowledge is unparalleled on this subject. Watch him pull Netflix and every other woke, lying weasel to pieces in about 2 minutes.
If this film is a drama, they have the right to do anything, because drama is not connected with history at all. But if you make a documentary by international law of ethics, you should, all the evidence that you presented should be based on truth. And therefore, I really believe that the lady that she made this film, she has only one purpose, that she wants to prove that the ancient Egyptians were black. But Cleopatra was
How
not
do you know that?
black.
How do you know that for a fact?
I am going to tell you now the reason. Number one, Cleopatra was Greek. Her father was blonde. Her brother was blonde. She cannot be black. Now, look at the scenes of Cleopatra on the statues, on the coins, and the scene that was shown on the facade of the temple of Hathor at Dandara. Look at the face, she cannot be black. Number two, the ancient Egyptians also were not black at all. Look at the scenes of the king fighting an enemy. You will see the king fighting a Nubian, an African, a Libyan, an Asiatic. All these four characters are completely different from the king. The king is not shown black in any tomb or any temple. This film is changing history. This film is not right.
Boom. You cannot make an honest man into a liar. The brother was blonde, the sister was blonde, the dad was blonde. If both your siblings are blonde, what does that tell you about your dad? Did he have a thing for blondes? And then he just decided to shag Whoopi Goldberg or Grace Jones, did he? And then, at best, Cleopatra is mixed race with a blonde who has a genetic predisposition to creating blonde children. She's not going to come out looking like Big Mike, is she? That's just a fact. And then he's like, the paintings, the coins, the statues, the pictures, the descriptions, the written history. It's game, set and match, unfortunately. But no, hang on. Owen Jones is here to disagree with you. Checkmate.
What more can you tell us about Cleopatra? You say she was Greek. What about her mother? We don't know anything about her mother.
I know, but listen, we have no evidence at all that Ptolemy's number 12 married a black woman at all. Her mother was not known in history, and this is why people created stories about her.
And I wonder how important it is to emphasize that difference and why it is such bone for contention.
She was Greek. She was Macedonian. She was white completely.
In the course of your work excavating and all the important historical work that you've done, what would you describe Cleopatra's role as having been?
Cleopatra was a very charming, beautiful Greek lady, that she was very ambitious. She wants to rule the world, and this is why she made Caesar the most powerful person on that time to be in love with her. She married him. After he was assassinated, she came back to Egypt. Mark Antony wanted to take a revenge from her, but when he met her for the first time, he fell in love with her. And he stayed in Egypt most of the time. This is why Octavius came back to take the revenge. The Actium battle was the end of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. And we were searching for her tomb for the last 12 years in cooperation with Kathleen Martinez from the Dominican Republic inside a temple called Taposiris Magna, located in 35 kilometers west of Alexandria.
Can I just add that you've also talked about her relationship with Mark Antony, her relationship with Caesar, and you have a very clear understanding of those relationships. And my question then is, how do you ensure the veracity of that information? How do you make sure that you can actually verify so confidently? Unless, of course, because the risk is you might just be weaving a narrative that is not necessarily founded in fact.
I am not telling you a narrative. I'm telling you what's written in history.
Right.
I'm giving you an information based on accurate history, not based on speculation.
And I think that's about the best time to end it, isn't it? I'm not giving you anything other than accurate historical fact. No narratives, no politics, no ideologies. This is what we know, this is what happened. The woke, the miserable, lying woke, who can't utter a sentence without throwing some lies into it, because they are ideologically possessed, desperate to push this harmful, ridiculous narrative out to all points of the compass. It's ludicrous. She wasn't black. We shouldn't lie about historical events. There are plenty of charming, intelligent black people that have achieved great things, so there's no need to steal Greek ones off Egyptian people and make things up, is there? Anyway, I'll put a link down there if you want to listen to the full thing. It's a great listen. I really did enjoy it. I do like the smooth tones of the interviewer. I'm going to start listening. I'll tell you what, that was much better to listen to than anything the UK-based BBC make, because they had 3 people from different minority groups. Well, not minority where they're from, but in the UK there would be, and they just talked sense reasonably. And talking sense reasonably is as rare as rocking horse shite on the BBC. Anyway, let me know what you think and have a listen for yourselves. Have a great weekend.